Hello and welcome to the Habit Architect. This is a kind of a monumental episode, not only because of our guests, but because we are wrapping up season 2 now. It's been a really good season. We've seen the viewership go up significantly. The replays have gone up significantly. We've had some great guests, and we're gonna end it with an even better guest. So I'm excited about that. Do go out and check out the free priority matrix on the website at timebandit.io. It's free to use. Get that downloaded and start using it, because priority management is kind of what we're going to focus on in season 3. And we're going to focus on it from a couple of perspectives, certainly individually and as well as companies. And that's why John Lurtz, who's our guest today, is going to be a great guest to kind of wrap up season 2 and kind of get us ready for season 3, because he has done some incredible things in his journey. He was a collegiate football player, so that alone tells you about his ability for preparation, discipline, habits, all of the things that we talk about. But he's also co-founded businesses and participates with his children, 6 of them, which can be taxing, I'm sure, from a time perspective, but joyous from a relationship perspective. And also he volunteers time to academies, et cetera. So there's a lot going on there. And what I'm going to talk with John about a lot is how do you even prioritize that? And then how does the company prioritize things and things like that? So we're going to get into that. Again, while we bring John up forward and let him introduce himself, if he better, do certainly your podcast channel that you get this on. Like it, subscribe to it, send it to friends. This last week I asked you to send it to 10 friends. This week, send it to 5 friends. How about that? We'll take it easy on you, but it does help us grow the viewership if you like and subscribe and make comments. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, Michael. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. For full disclosure, everybody watching this, John and I worked together years ago and stayed in touch. He's a great individual, and I'm glad to consider him in my network of friends as well. So, John, it's really good to have you on the show today.
I appreciate that, Michael. Michael, you are one of the greatest rainmakers that I worked with a strong foundation of Texas charm, I like to call it.
Well, thank you. I don't usually get complimented when I bring a guest on, but that's awesome. I like to compliment you, and I hopefully I captured some of what is about you. But why don't you start? Why don't you give us a short introduction to you and to Moreland, and then we'll dig into it a little bit further.
Yeah, that sounds good. It was a good intro. I like to introduce myself as a failed NFL athlete. Spent most of my younger years lifting weights and playing football. Ended up breaking my neck in a game in college in 1998 on September 5th. So that changed my trajectory from headed to the NFL to what do I do now? And you mentioned a little bit about the consistency and the habit forming that I learned in football. I was able to apply those same fundamentals once I got hurt to business and computer science and AI. So it went a long way having that foundation, because what you learn in football is simply this: if you're willing to work harder than everyone else, then you will succeed. And that same basic principle applies in every other area of your life, including business.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And so about that, so it's an interesting thing when you think about athletes that migrate into the business world for whatever reason. Yours was because of an unfortunate injury, but you would have done it eventually anyway, because we all age. I haven't seen anybody figure out how to avoid that part of it, but. You've taken on a lot since your football career, in the sense of starting businesses, starting a family, and not just a small family, a big family. You've got a lot of things bouncing around.
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah. So after football, I had to quickly change my major from underwater basket weaving to computer science and business ops. And so I graduated with that, and then joined Arthur Andersen Consulting, which is now Accenture. So I'm old enough to have joined pre-IPO, but I'm not old enough to have made any significant money when Accenture IPO'd. So that's why I'm still working. Loved Accenture. If you don't know the company well, it's the largest system integrator on earth, and they do so much work in so many industries. And when you go there, really 1 year at Accenture is like 5 to 7 years in any other industry. You're going to different clients, learning different technologies. You're in the boardroom at 23 years old, trying to help business executives figure out what to do. And so it really is an incubator to success for anybody that joins. So huge proponent of joining one of the big four consulting firms out of college for anybody that has kids and is trying to encourage them down a career path. But after that, ultimately, my wife of 27 years, she was frustrated because I was gone a lot, and she wanted to have kids. And you mentioned in the intro that we have 6 children, and we had 4 girls. Our 4th daughter had some heart trouble, had to have open heart surgery at 7 days old. She's doing great now. She's 12 years old. Awesome. And so I really wanted a football player to kind of do what I did. And so we had a boy at number 5. He's 10 now. And when we turned 40, my wife, Jenny came to me and said, "You know what he needs?" I said, "What?" And she said, "He needs a brother." I said, "Great." So we were blessed with another pregnancy. And when the baby was born, it was a beautiful little blonde hair, blue-eyed girl. So we have 5 daughters and 1 son. And
he is surrounded by.
Yeah, he's surrounded. He's a boy, though. He's definitely different.
Yeah.
I'm happy. He loves all the sports, and I have the great opportunity to coach him in different things, which has just been amazing. But through all that, you mentioned, did some real estate investing, did a few startups, especially in the IoT space. I was part of a startup called Entwine Connect, where we built a UDP hole punching protocol that was transaction persistent. That was the foundation for things like Skype and Nest thermostats. So we had this, we went to market, we had our smart thermostat on the shelves at Home Depot. The first month was 50,000, second month was 500,000 in sales, and we crested $1 million. And then Nest released with VC backing and multi-million-dollar marketing budget. And so our sales dropped off. So that was one fun startup that I did along the way. Also founded a company that does a lot in transportation. So we manage about 3,000 snowplow trucks across the U.S. We have a gateway computer on those, video cameras, hydraulic sensors. So it really collects all this data, sends it up to the cloud, and it allows the DOTs to redeploy assets as they're fighting snowstorms in the Northeast and Midwest.
That's amazing. And when was that? That was...
So that started around when you and I were still doing a little bit of work together. So this was 2011, 2012 timeframe, and still a customer today. So we're almost 15 years with them.
That's amazing. Well, there was a comment that says girls can play football too, in the chat. So just so you know, I'm sure your girls are active and have a lot of hobbies and things as well. So
they sure can. And my oldest daughter really gives him a run for his money. So as you know, a 10-year-old boy starts to push his limits with his parents and especially his dad and his older siblings. And she can still whoop him pretty good. So I'm excited about that.
There you go. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. So let's talk about the discipline of football, and then how that transpired into you running businesses. Because, I think that you talked about discipline, working hard is one thing, but there's also, you've got to be smart in how you spend your time, where you spend your energy, things like that. So can you talk a little bit about kind of maybe the skills you learned in football and how they transpired, or just how you had to reassess them?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot you learn in football. And I would say the one thing that a coach in college told me was, in order to win, you have to know what's important now, WIN. And as you go through life, you get better at determining what's important now, because there's always many, many priorities, many things competing for your attention. If you ask people for advice, they'll tell you things. And so ultimately, your success is defined by your ability to discover what's important now and then do it. And so in football, that's easy because there's not that many variables at play, right? You need to be physically fit. You need to be in the weight room all the time. You need to be studying the game film. You need to know your position, know the playbook. Like, all those things are important, and you can work on all those at the same time. But in business, as you know, to stay ahead of the wolf pack, there's a million variables coming at you at any moment. And sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you focus on the wrong thing. And that's okay. And another thing you learn being an athlete and playing football is you're going to get knocked down. You're going to fail at a play. And what defines your success is your ability to get back up and keep moving. So it's the same thing in business.
Yeah.
You can work really hard on a deal, think you've got it in the bag. It's a no-brainer. It's a perfect fit for your company, for them. And then ultimately you lose. And so you have to be able to reflect on that and figure out the reason why, and then refine your approach and get better next time.
Yeah, and I love you. I love that you took it there first. I like the win analogy too, and I want to get back to that in a minute. But what you just said there, I think, is important, because so many people, when they lose, or they feel like they lost or they got rejected, they spend tomorrow and the next day thinking about it, and it's not helping them get up and go to the next opportunity, right? And so many people catastrophize what happened as opposed to looking forward. And I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I just think that that's a great perspective, that whether you're a sales rep in the field or a CEO in the boardroom, that fundamental still applies.
Yeah, so the quick funny story. I was coaching the 3rd grade tackle football players in Hudson, Ohio, the Hudson Hawks organization, which I absolutely love. So this was 2 years ago, and our boys were 4-0. They're doing great. They all think they're going to go Division I. They're having a great year. And we come up against this team, Kenmore, and these boys looked like they were grown men already. And so they also had 48 kids. We only had 16 on our team. And so we were just getting pounded. We ended up losing the game 20-8. And by the end of the game, I barely had enough kids that weren't hurt or pretending to be hurt or sitting with their mom and crying because these guys were so big to even finish the game. And so ultimately we got done, and we went over, and the offensive coordinator said some words to the team. And, in youth sports, the team meets with the coach, but then all the parents kind of come and linger around to hear what the coach says. And so I got right down on their level, and I said, guys, a lot of you guys made me proud today, and some of you guys really hurt my heart. And so you can see their faces are like heart. They're like, what's coach going to say next? And I said, many of you guys fought hard all the way to the end of the game, even though we were losing and getting beat. But some of you guys decided that you wanted to say you were hurt and not participate and not play. And I said, that's not good. I said, football is not about running. It's not about tackling. It's not about blocking. It's not about throwing. It's not about catching. It's not about scoring. Football is about getting beat and not quitting. And what you guys need to take away from this, those of you that decided to quit today, was never do that again for the rest of your life. And so, some of the kids are crying, they're getting emotional. And the one dad says to me after that, he goes, "Hey, coach, how about that speech before the game next time?"
Well, that's a good point, but it probably had to be said. And I think we generally have not taught our kids that. I mean, I'm not. This isn't a criticism of education. It's not a criticism of parenting. It's just, I think that our generation of parents, John, are we tended to do more for our kids than our parents did for us, and what that inherently built was this: if somebody's always going to take care of it, then you don't have to take care of it yourself. And sometimes it wasn't purposeful. We do things for our kids because we love them and we want them to do well. But I think that there's I don't want to get into a millennial Gen X fight, any of that. But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's there. One of my friends would put it this way. He's from Nigeria, grew up with nothing. It's Dr. George Ochenjele, and now he's one of the most successful orthopedic surgeons at University Hospital here in Cleveland. He operates on all the Browns players. He's just a phenomenal guy. And he would say this. He would say, strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. And so we only have our context of our short lives that we've been around here, but this cycle perpetuates in every generation and every society across all of humanity. And I feel like now with all of the things that our kids have today that just makes their lives so easy, it's going to come into a difficult time here eventually.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can get it back on business. I think
Yeah.
with 6 kids, I bet you have some good parenting advice, but that's a different podcast. So I appreciate
Yep.
that. I went on that tangent, but I do think what you said there was meaningful to me as well about your team and so on. So you talk about a concept called extreme ownership, and why I related to that is I teach a lot of people how to use the Eisenhower matrix. Do their things first. These are the most important and urgent things. Do those first, and that's kind of easy to understand. It's some of the other quadrants that I think people get stuck in, and particularly the one that is drop it. Right, stop doing that. Right, you've got things on your to-do list that either just go to your to-do list tomorrow, next week, next month, etc., and they're just not something that you do. And in business, you really have to figure out, for lack of a better word, where to cut your losses. And sometimes you're doing activities that just aren't helping everything. So does that go into your extreme ownership kind of feeling or concept?
Yeah, absolutely it does. I think, extreme ownership can also be dangerous. So you can make a lot of overreaches, and you can become a micromanager if all you ever do is say, I'm an extreme owner and I'm going to watch every detail and make sure this goes perfectly to plan. And no matter what I need to do, whether it's shoveling something off the ground or doing something, I'm going to do whatever it takes as an extreme owner. And that's an important trait, that ownership trait that you can't teach. People can work at it and become better at it, but ultimately it has to come from within them. That's why it can't be taught. It has to be discovered on your own, what that means. But one of the fundamentals to being able to grow in business and scale yourself is what you just said at the end of the Eisenhower fundamentals, which is know when to drop it. And so I know that there's engineers that aren't going to do it as well as I would have done it back when I did real work 20 years ago. But that's okay. You have to assign it to them and let them do it. A close friend once told me that you have to know who you are, what makes you great, and then train someone else to be you, and then get out of the way. That's how you scale. And if under the cloak of extreme ownership, you never get there, that's not good, because you'll never be able to scale yourself. So I kind of look at the entrepreneur world, the startup world, the business owner world. Everyone has extreme ownership, or they wouldn't have been there in the first place.
Right.
So the next leap after becoming an extreme ownership person is being able to pass on the work to other people and actually let them do it. It's never going to be to your standard, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's good. Great observation. Thanks for repping that way. I think that's the right perspective. And that leads me into kind of wanting to talk about your current business, but also just the landscape that your current business is in. And with AI, there are so many opportunities. There's so many possibilities. There are so many choices business leaders can make. And they're easy to make, right? Because you can vibe code something in an afternoon and you solve a little problem there, or you could, and so what interests me about this topic is that how should a company prioritize where they invest? They're not only, I'm talking capital outlay for the projects, but also their time. If you're asking your team to go build that little vibe code thing, what is that taking away from? It may be the right thing. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, how are you prioritizing? And you deal with business leaders all day, every day, talking about these things. And there's so many possibilities. How are they sifting through it, or how are you guys helping them?
Yeah, absolutely. So Moreland Connect has always done this. We help companies solve technical problems that they can't solve themselves. Said a different way, we provide technical solutions to business problems. And so we've always done that. And with AI in the last almost 3 years now, we've been able to do that much more effectively, much quicker. For instance, we're migrating hundreds of mainframe applications to Java for a multi-billion-dollar company. And with AI, we're able to do that really quickly because we know how to prompt it properly. And it can do all of this grunt work that a human used to have to do. And it can collapse timelines from months to days. And it's so powerful, but it has to be in the hands of a really talented engineer that already knows the fundamentals of programming and knows how to architect. If you give it to someone right out of school and they don't know those fundamentals, they can prompt and vibe code some code, but then when it's time to push that code to production in a secure way, in a way that a company can depend on and it will never fail, they just fall apart. So there's all this discussion about AI and we're not going to need people to write code anymore. That's simply not true. You still need a human brain to understand the business problem, to architect the technical solution, and then to make sure that each layer of that technical solution is built properly. Now, the built properly, back in the day when you and I worked together, it was thousands of hours for programmers to do that. Now it can be tens of hours in the hands of a skilled engineer that knows how to architect.
Yeah. But and because of that ease, or not ease, but short time frame to potential results, it almost feels like companies are tackling, well, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. But what are the habits and kind of the structure around saying which application should migrate first, which one should just go away because they're not needed anymore, those business processes and things like that? I mean, do you guys have a methodology? I know your product is foundation, so if you need to pull in some aspects of that, or is it just the business process stuff that you guys go and help and consult with companies on where to start?
Yeah, that's one of the things that sets Moreland Connect apart from all of our competition, is because we have a leadership team and a senior team that understands business, because we all worked at Accenture, Deloitte, or KPMG back in the day, or McKinsey. So we're able to look, every CEO, you'll sit down with them, and after they decide that they trust you and they're going to open up and share things with you, once you get them to that point, they all have an idea of what they think they need. And our job as technology consultants is to listen to them, understand their idea, but then help them see things that they didn't notice based on our experience across hundreds of other companies in the same industry and in different industries. So we have a much greater view of the world than a CEO that's focused on one company or one industry. And so oftentimes the things that are on their list will still be a priority and still be important. But if there's other things that we've strategized and innovated on together, other ideas, sometimes those things come to the forefront. And it all comes down to the basic three that Cups. It's saving time, saving money, or providing peace of mind. And so once you get them to open up about those things and you share other ideas, and then usually after those meetings, the sales process is pretty easy, because they say, well, just tell us what to do. So you can prescribe a solution to their business issue. And oftentimes the Moreland Connect team is the one to build that. But if we're not, that's okay. We're still adding value. And the most important thing to us is to serve that company and that customer and help them get where they need to be.
Yeah, and that's great. And so you chase elk around every now and then as a hunter, I think. And so do you have an analogy of how to look at a modernization project, let's say? And is there an analogy there about knowing terrain and things like that you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. So I began hunting elk in 2013. We ended up buying 252 acres in Guffey, Colorado.
Nice.
It's a lawless county. There's no county sheriff, so it's a little crazy out there. I won't take my son there till he's 16. Let me just put it that way. And we hunt with rodeo cowboys. So if you've ever seen the series Yellowstone and the bunkhouse, those are the people that we hunt with when we're out there. So it's a little nuts. But so the analogy part is you can't just walk into the mountains with a gun and hope to shoot and kill an elk. Right. You have to study the pattern of those elk, when they're coming up the mountain, when they're coming down. You have to study the terrain. What are the pinch points where they're going to walk single file so you can get a good shot? You have to study the landscape. Where is the water that they're going to go to in the evening? Where is the bedding area that they're going to go to at night? So, and then you have to, another one is, how will we get this animal off the mountain? So you
Right.
can shoot a beautiful elk, but if you shot it on the side of a jagged ridge where you can't get to it to process it, then that's not good. So there's all these different factors when you're going into an elk hunt, and it's the same in business. You have in IBM training, they would call it the 3 R's: the rules, the roles, and the routes of any business department, any business process. And so when you go into, let's say it's a manufacturing department, you need to understand what they're making, what are the rules on how they make that, what routes do they take across the manufacturing floor, and what roles do all these people play as they're doing this. And you have to invest that time and energy. You have to look at the landscape, look at the terrain, look at the pattern of all these people in this sense, not elk, before you can really prescribe what to do. If you just march in there with AI or an ETL back in the day when we worked together and said, let's just plug everything to this. But if you don't understand what they're doing and why, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, that's a good analogy too, and that is something that I think there are a lot of agencies or whatever you want to call them that are now AI enabled, and they'll come build agents for you, and that's great to an extent. But if it's a critical process, you might need a little more thought in it. So then that's what you're applying is a systematic approach to the 3 R's that you mentioned there. So that's awesome. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about Foundation, your product. It's obviously built AI native, all that stuff, but can you just give us a highlight of the capabilities of it?
Yeah, so we started to see common patterns across our customer base as they were struggling to implement AI, asking us for direction. And it's interesting where you and I worked together in the past around data sources and ontology and data translation and moving types from place to place. That problem, even though we've been working on it, Cup, since the 90s, hasn't been solved yet. And 25 years ago, we would have prescribed web methods or some other ETL to help with that. And now we can do the same thing with Foundation AI. And so within our AI framework in Foundation, we can quickly tie in these new data sources. And then in the same way that AI helps you write better emails, do spreadsheet analysis, it can also do the data translation and mapping. Like, it's the work that we used to pay engineers lots of money to do. It's just done. And then it's really, you're sitting with the business user looking at the Foundation AI screen and saying, okay, is that all right? And they say, yeah. And sometimes there's something that's not quite right. And sometimes systems, as you know, because you're a data guy, things will be formatted in a different way. And so what Foundation does, so let's say in manufacturing, you have sales orders with sales order line items, and then you have production orders with production order line items, and then a nested line item underneath that. And so those things don't exactly map together, but you can create rules within Foundation that allows you to map those two data elements together. So now you can build a sales application that allows people to provide quotes that are detailed with timelines and dollar amounts that is tied directly to historical production data. So it's not just sales being sales, it's actually built on top of reality.
Yeah. And that's a critical element there that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that you have systems in your enterprise today and they probably have the same data element, but it's called something different. And that interpreter that you were talking about is one of the most critical things in AI, especially. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
The other thing we're trying to do with Foundation is, you'll laugh when I say this, but Moreland Connect would like to save the world from the mainframes. So every time you do a banking transaction, there's some IBM server in a closet somewhere that is transacting that data. And IBM has made many, many billions of dollars on these things through the years. And if you've been in these environments, you know, don't touch the mainframe, don't look at it, don't breathe too hard in this room. Certainly don't turn the light off because these things are still running and they're running great, but there's no one that can fix them now. And so AI has unlocked this. So there's this tremendous cost to migrate all these mainframe applications with 40, 50, 60 years of data and process built into them. It's such a huge cost to rewrite all these things in the traditional way that we can never do it. Now with AI, especially with Moreland Connect's foundation AI, we can use our platform to modernize these mainframe applications into a modern language that can then be hosted on the cloud in a secure way. So I really think there's going to be a tremendous growth in the tech industry around this mainframe modernization. It's already starting. We're doing quite a bit of it here in the Cleveland market, but it's a global issue.
Yeah, it is, and it's not a specific industry. You mentioned banks, which are heavily invested in healthcare, which I've spent a number of years in. Every claim that gets processed in healthcare probably runs through a mainframe somewhere in that value chain, and that's adding cost to that claim as well. So it's an interesting challenge that you're addressing, and I think it's an important one. And I agree with you. It's now easier than it has been. I wouldn't call it easy, but in the right hands with the right tools, it becomes a manageable project that will be successful.
The issue is there's people that all know COBOL and Fortran and Delphi are all retired, and now with AI and within Foundation, we've created a agent expert in those three old languages. So we have a Fortran agent expert that we can point at their Fortran code base.
Nice.
And because this agent is an expert, it can look at it and it can say, okay, here's exactly what's happening. Here's a spec for how you would create this in Java. And here's our first pass at how we would build this out in Java. And so now you've gone from, here's the existing mainframe app, here's the Java app, and having to do all that yourself. It's done the first pass for you. And so now you're just testing. So you're doing user acceptance testing over here, and you're looking for gaps. And then after that, of course, you have to wrap security and everything else around it, and release production schedule, all those things that are important in an enterprise application. But it's just amazing. I'm so excited about it. We were worried that there would be less for us to do, but it turns out it's the opposite. People are writing so much more code now that the demand for us has gone through the roof. So when you come visit the Cleveland office, you'll see we're bursting out of this building. We need a new location. We're trying to expand to Nashville and Milwaukee, all these things just to meet the demand.
Yeah, well, come on down to Y'all Street too here in Texas.
Yeah, there we go.
Going on here. So so that's awesome. Well, a couple of things. Thank you for that about Moreland. And there's a ticker that's going, and we'll put it in the comments for everybody if they want to go check out your website and reach out to you. But I do always ask one question at the end of this. But before I do that, I was sitting here looking at us both on the screen, and we look like we're sitting almost in the same office complex. But I'm sitting in Frisco, and you're in Cleveland. But the background's kind of vaguely similar. It looks like a little more wind here in Texas than in Cleveland, but that's funny. Well, and then I was wondering,
we picked one of the nice days in Cleveland. There's only a handful of them every year.
Yeah. So you're going to get outside after this is over, right?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing, I'm just wondering where the TikTok videos of you doing underwater basket weaving are, because you mentioned that you had to change your major. So I'd really like to get a front track on those things.
I'll post them on my LinkedIn so you can take them down this weekend.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, the question I ask everybody is, what's a habit that John Lurtz has that's non-negotiable? You do it either every day, every week, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's kind of a state of mind, and it's do what you say you'll do on time, the first time, every time. That's it. Perfect.
So it's a commitment to that, right? So
no matter what, you have to get it done.
That's
no
awesome.
Excuses. Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We're walking away with this podcast with a lot of very good win. The 3 R's and your habit there. The one question I do have for you that we're going to start embedding in our series, season 3. Sorry, not series 3. Season 3 is, what is one thing that you used to do all the time, but now you've found a way to do it with AI that you no longer have to worry about?
Arrangement letters. So we have 60 to 80 new projects every year. And so I've trained co-work with different tasks. So now what was my big time stink in the past was just creating new arrangement letters and statements of work and contracts for new clients. And now Cloud Co-work gets me 99% of the way there. And I just prompted with a few things. And because I have domain knowledge and what we've done, I could say, remember, we did this over here. It's very similar. And so it can churn out these timelines and delivery letters really quick. So that's been amazing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for that insight. Thank you for the discussion today too, John. It's always good to catch up with you, and what you're doing there is good work, and what you're doing with your family is even better work. So really, really excited for you on all fronts.
Appreciate that, Michael. It's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Just real quick, I mean, I know there is a ticker, but it's morlingconnect.com. Is that right?
That's right.
And then find John on LinkedIn. He's active there, and you can DM and get into a conversation with him. So that's it for season 2. And John, glad you could be the last guest on it. We are going to start season 3 next week. I'm going to be in Portugal, so we're going to take a week off, and we'll get back at it the last week of June. And looking forward to season 3. Like I said, we're still going to stay focused on priority management, habit tracking, things like that. But it's going to be a little more business focused because there's so many opportunities, and especially in the mid-market that John covers, where companies have huge opportunities, but priority management and so forth is going to help them be successful. So that's what we're going to talk about. Thank you all for tuning in. And again, like and subscribe and all that stuff, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks again, John.